Yakuza. A series I initially wrote off as another tired, continued part of the wacky Japanese media wave. The only thing fans of the series seemingly talked about or made viral were the kooky and wacky characters and happenstances, such as companies being run by chickens, mascots with heads made from oranges, or crazy idol song and dance numbers. And, of course, Baka Mitai. I wrote this series off without much of a second thought initially, as I was never a PlayStation kid growing up, so I had no exposure to the games as they were coming out. However, one steep sale on a Humble Bundle meant that for $5, I was willing to give the series a try after much convincing from a friend. I went into Yakuza 0, a prequel made in 2015 meant to tell the origins of the series' main protagonist, Kazuma Kiryu, and its fan-favorite side character, Goro Majima, with expectations of wacky character hijinks and over-the-top beat-em-up gameplay. Those expectations quickly gave way for a gritty, dark crime drama from the intro cutscene alone. What I expected to be a silly game instead was a story about greed, loss, and family. Characters suffered tragedy as they attempted to protect those they cared about. The funny weirdness existed, don't get me wrong, the game really was oozing with it, but it served more as a source of levity in a story that was emotionally gripping and heartbreaking, as opposed to the centerpiece of the game. You could get through the entire game without ever having to touch the dozens of memorable comedic side content, like slot car racing, darts, disco dancing, bowling, the sub-stories of being a producer for a TV shoot, freeing vulnerable people from a deceptive cult, or fighting billionaires in money battles. None of this carries over to the game's main story, which may sound like a clash of themes at first, but works to provide some brevity to the sadness over the course of the story. I spent well over 50 hours on my first playthrough experiencing as much of the game as I could. I was glued to the story, and come the last few chapters, I was focused entirely on the story over any side content the game had left to offer. The characters felt so human. They were flawed despite their stoicism. They felt headstrong and young, but still full of kindness and care. I cared about them. I cared for their goals and the relationships they had with each other. I wanted to see them succeed and achieve what they set out to do. Some characters were shrouded with mystery, and I was glued to the screen trying to figure out what their true identity really was. The characters are what fostered my connection to the game, and eventually the series, and are what I think the games do better than anything else. After finishing 0, I picked up Yakuza Kiwami, a remake of Yakuza 1, which originally came out for the PS2 in 2005. While the story definitely felt aged and convoluted compared to Yakuza 0, the groundwork for the emotional storytelling and character writing that I experienced in 0 was shown to have been there from the start. Extra scenes were added in the remake to connect it to the world building that established in 0, showing the downfall of Kiwami's villain from his character in the previous game. A time jump occurs between 0 and Kiwami, going from Japan in the late 80s to the mid-2000s, which helps put the player in the protagonist's shoes. They too are disconnected from the world for most of this time, and the new world around them feels just as similar yet different to them as it would to you. This was the game that solidified that I didn't just like Yakuza 0, I liked Yakuza. The next few games continue to get more complex, introducing new mini-games and characters, and continuing Kiryu's stories in their own ways, some for the better and some for the worse. To sum them up in a sentence, in my opinion, Yakuza Kiwami 2, the Yakuza 2 remake, is great, Yakuza 3 is fine, Yakuza 4 is good, Yakuza 5 is bad but has its moments, and Yakuza 6, the Song of Life, is good. I might talk about them in detail in the future, but I would rather dedicate videos to each game individually than to skim them all on this one. All of the main series games have their own merits and fallbacks, but they're all incredibly entertaining, please just trust me. However, now, what I would like to talk about is Yakuza 7, Like a Dragon. Every game prior to this one had Kazuma Kiryu as its protagonist, but RGG Studios, the company behind the Yakuza series, wanted to take it into a different direction. Like a Dragon's story focuses on a brand new protagonist and an almost entirely new cast of characters, allowing them to use their ability to write likable characters on a full cast as opposed to being used on a few new layers to establish characters or introducing a handful of new characters in Kiryu's story. Its gameplay also diverts from the old beat-em-up style into a completely different JRPG direction, with turn-based party combat. This helps you not only connect to the new protagonist by further separating him from how you played the games about Kiryu, but also helps you connect to all of his friends he makes throughout the story as well. And when it comes to the story, oof! This game destroyed me emotionally. Its entire story focuses on themes of family and loss, about companionship and finding your place in the world. I cannot stress enough how emotional and gripping this story is. And while it has some problems, it's possibly my favorite story in the entire series. I'd love to go into detail, but I am doing this video with as few spoilers as possible. If any of this sounds interesting to you, I implore you to give the series a try yourself. The entire series is now available on PC and Xbox after previously being PlayStation exclusive, meaning if you become invested, you will be able to scratch your itch no matter the platform you decide to start on. I personally recommend with either Yakuza 0 or Yakuza Like a Dragon, with a heavy leaning towards 0. While Like a Dragon will spoil some things for you if you decide to play it before the other games, the heavy focus on new characters means it doesn't really dampen the emotional impact the other stories will tell if you decide to go back and play the rest. This is honestly my favorite series of all time, so thank you for watching.